The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Oh, yeah, I wanted to put both my hands when I said it. Everyone! Welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, the 8th of October, here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys and Dan Ringler from Kirkland Lake, Ontario, for the awesome intro track originally recorded by the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Harrison, along with the one and only Bufo Alverius, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Ooh, Tara.
Well, hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. Great to be back after another week. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like great fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad.
Don't lick the toad. Hey, we got toads. I almost licked them the other day because you told me not to lick Bufos, so these weren't Bufos. But I don't think it would have been the same thing and I would have licked something else.
Yeah, licking the toad directly is just not advised. It's bad for the toad and it's bad for sustainability. And again, dose and setting, that's kind of important to know exactly what you're taking. You don't know how much Bufo is going to give you if you're just extracting it from the toad.
And, it's not just the dosage. And the trip setting. It's the afterwards. It's not just getting high. And that brings us into our first story right here about integration. On truthsitters.org, a very knowledgeable area for psychedelics, and if you want to be healthily taking psychedelics, this is a good site to go check out. I know Bufo has come here to let us know about different psychedelics as well, but they have a thing called a Guide for Integration. Lifelong work of integration begins after your psychedelic experience.
Yes, and as we know, set and setting's important, but so is the integration work, because that's how we heal with psychedelics, is to utilize that integration and learn from our trip, right, hobbies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody from our trip.
Yeah. And just so you know, hobbies, your audio's a little muddled, so I know that happens from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah. So this article, we're going to do this whole thing in parts, but we're going to do the first two chapters, which are the most important, which is Introduction to Integration, a lifelong process. Psychedelic integration is a lifelong process of making sense and incorporating the insights and lessons learned from our journeys into our daily lives to benefit us and our communities. While we may initially think that the actual psychedelic experience is the sole or primary source of healing, the most crucial work is integrating its lessons into our daily lives. Hence, the insights become meaningful, active aspects of our lives rather than distant memories. Introduction to integration. Medicine is a concept. Each thought, activity, and object can be medicinal or poisonous, and our psychedelic journeys help us recognize these differences. For example, eating a piece of chocolate can allow the chocolate to be a medicine, while eating two whole bars mindlessly while driving can turn the chocolate into a poison. There's nothing inherently wrong with the latter, but it's probably won't lead to a happy state of mind. Integration involves remembering that acting from our innate wholeness, which is always present. Just as in our daily lives, some psychedelic experiences can be challenging or complex. Integration practices can help us ground, recenter, and find balance and more confidently move forward. They allow us to incorporate teachings into our regular routines, continue learning, and let go in a non altered state. The practices show us that life is more fluid than we thought. Our evolution, growth, and healing are cynical and can sometimes be understood upon reflection.
You are the one you've always been seeking. The healing that begins with our psychedelic experience continues as we practice loving kindness and compassion in every aspect of our lives, especially in the areas we tend to ignore and overlook. We learn to be gentle, soft, and generous with ourselves and others. Even the anger, grief, shame, and guilt we experience can be teachers instead of enemies to destroy us. We practice consciously, choosing how we relate and act in the world. Proper integration that increases the quality of life while minimizing the risk of re-traumatizing behaviors and interactions requires some planning and effort. While it may be tempting to hang on to memories with our psychedelic experience like a lifetime, we must continue looking and moving forward. Unless we take concrete actions to apply the teachings, our healings will be limited. We should approach our integration with purpose and mindfulness. Each psychedelic experience allows us to reach a mountain peak, and in between time, we can cover our tools and skills, allowing us to venture into subsequent climbing experiences with more perspective and wisdom and hopefully less suffering. But where do we start? This question can be overwhelming, mainly if our experience is challenging. If we had, even if we had a pleasant journey, what can we do that will recreate that clarity we experienced while we were in it? We may feel the need to change everything about our lives all at once. And how do we do that? And should we do that? It may be better to wait at least a few weeks or even several months before making major life decisions. But that's what you need. And while this realization may feel overwhelming, we can provide a great deal more help. You are the one you've always thought. This guide is incomplete and is a reflection of the editor's limited experiences and perspectives. Some of the passages and summaries or paraphrases are widely available information. This is a non-academic document, so formal citation has been left out. But you are encouraged to question, examine, and come to your own conclusions about everything stored in this document. You should keep what resonates and just start with license doesn't.
Yeah, so chapter 2, integration process. learning to listen. You'll get to know yourself better as new meanings emerge over the days and weeks following your experience. You may become aware of beliefs you didn't even realize you held or how they influence your behavior. Memories from your childhood surface. As you open your emotions, you may recognize what's truly important. Coming down. Integration begins by creating a soft and gentle landing back into reality when coming down from your psychedelic experience. A light meal and the presence of a loving guide or friend can help ground you as you transition back to a non altered state. Regardless of your journey, you may want to spend most of the following days grounding, relaxing, and reflecting. Let yourself rest and readjust to new perceptions. You'll likely feel vulnerable and raw if you experience a challenging journey. If you had a blissful roller coaster ride through magical realms, you might feel a little bit let down by the mundanity of life. Either way, ideally, you can treat yourself to a healing or a healthy and peaceful day off. You can spend the day being with a loved one, listening to your favorite music, walking in nature, having nourishing meals, or doing whatever else allows you to enjoy yourself. Replenish your body with plenty of water and electrolytes. You may have groundbreaking revolutions about your job, partner, or a living situation during your journey. You may feel the need to make drastic changes immediately. However, a few days after your trip, are usually not your best time to make major decisions. Give yourself time to reflect on the experience before making any significant changes. Sometimes the most uncomfortable and painful journeys are the most humbling and transformative.
I'm glad she put that in, or they put that in there on the second chapter right away. Not to sell the farm just because your trip told you to, and
Yeah, for sure.
reflecting on the experience. You will naturally begin reflecting on experience soon after you come down and for a few days after your journey day. Writing recording a trip report or drawing what you saw on your journey may be helpful. Focus on any vision, thought, memories, blockages, and somatic sensations you experience. Self reflection means to observe what arises in your heart, mind, and body. Engage in some quiet contemplation to review what you saw, heard, realized, or otherwise experienced during your trip. An essential part of reflection is distinguishing between your observation, what your senses tell you, and your interpretation, what all means. While reflecting on your experience, ask yourself the following question. What did I hear, smell, sense, or taste? And what did my body feel like? What emotions came up? Joy, love, sadness, anger, serenity, etc. Did any of my experiences contain symbols or special meaning? What is the subconscious mind telling me through these experiences? Take the time to reflect and answer these questions. During your reflections, you may realize a particular vision or experience has more significance than you initially thought, or not. Reflection is a process that continues long after the psychedelic journey. Having someone to talk to with about your experience is a crucial part of your healing journey.
Absolutely. Making meaning. After you've let the experience settle, it's time to start unpacking its meaning. Looking back at the visions you wrote or drew, ask yourself what they mean. How do they make you feel? What do they remind you of? Often, the meaning lies not in what you see, but how you relate. Trusting your intuition, your gut feeling, is integral to the practice. Intuition is often called the sixth sense for a reason. Do you feel like you know things as clearly as if you were seeing them right before you? Do you have unexplained hunches or inclinations you usually brush off as unmerited? When reflecting on your psychedelic experience, pay attention to this unexplainable knowledge. Learning to be aware of and listen to your intuition is a developed skill that takes time and practice to develop, especially for those who have experienced significant traumas. If you don't know what your intuition is saying yet, it's okay. The subconscious mind can remember much about your psychedelic experience than the conscious mind. While on the medicine, your brain forms new connections and pathways. Sometimes these new pathways can be too complex for conscious processing. So your brain is trying to alert you on a new subconscious level. Paying attention to these feelings, trust these feelings. As a great poet, Rumi, once wrote, there is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen. If you confront your shadow, you might discover new parts of yourself you've represented you repressed or forgotten, or come to terms with shameful behaviors you must address. If you encounter mystical consciousness, you might ask yourself questions about the nature of reality and life. You might experience a new zest for life or a desire to change what's not working. There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen. And that was a quote by Rumi.
Remembering your intentions. Remembering your intentions allows you to see the positives of your psychedelic experience. When you see the desired outcomes, you may realize any changing period of your trip was worth it. What did you want from psychedelics? It might be helpful to write down your intention. If you didn't do so before your journey, was your purpose fulfilled? The medicine often brings you closer to your desired results in ways that you didn't expect. If you intended to stop caring what other people think of you, but still care after the experience, take a step back and reassess. What causes you to take care what other people think of you? Is it insecurity or compulsive desire to please others? Surely you gain insight into these matters during your experience. If you can recognize and sit with these patterns, then you can make the necessary changes to achieve your original intention. However, this process may take much longer than you imagine. Psychedelics are not a magic pill, but they can be great teachers in learning how to adapt. How did the experience change your view? Even if the journey did not address your original intention, did you learn other lessons? Sometimes the most uncomfortable and painful journeys are the most humbling and transformative. Life can teach and humble us through painful lessons, and sometimes we need to feel insignificant to realize our power. Sometimes we need to feel powerless to cultivate gratitude. Woo!
Interesting. Practice. It's vital to incorporate the lessons into practical activities you can do daily. In creating an action plan, you may focus on integration practices that nourish your entire life in the realms of body, mind, spirituality, community, and environment. This holistic approach represents an integrated way of living that allows positive change to trickle into your relationships, communities, and environment. Whatever practices you choose work best when serving you and the world. Integration is a great time to try new things, as your brain is more open to learning after you journey. But make sure these practices are doable and feel good. This process is not about adding more stress, pressure, or rigidity to your life. Ideally, you would have to start at least one of these practices before starting your psychedelic journey. but there's always time to start. While integration is unique to each individual, it may sometimes require further sessions or modalities to complete these unfinished processes, especially if old traumas resurface or you relive a birth or death experience. If you haven't already, you may wish to foster relationships with specialists, therapists, and healers who have experience working with trauma or people who are using psychedelics. Psychedelic support, MAP integration list, and being true to you, somatic experiencing may provide support options. So those are links there that you can click. Having someone to talk with about your experience is a crucial part of your healing journey. This person does not have to be a professional. Still, it can be helpful to work with someone who has many years of experience with specific mental, emotional, or spiritual issue. Wow, that's pretty comprehensive, and I would agree with all of that. It's so important. You can't just take some psychedelics and be magically healed. There's processes, and you have to be ready to heal those things.
I agree. This is going to be a cool journey. If you like that these readings, each week we'll cover chapter 2, and then we'll still cover the regular news as well. But hopefully this helps people in that part that people don't even look at, is the integration.
Right. A lot of people are just like, oh, so you just take some mushrooms and you're better? Well, no. Or you just take some DMT and you're magically better? No. It doesn't quite work like that. I would agree with it does help with the processing of a lot of emotions, especially ones that you have like put in the closet and tried to forget about that are still affecting your life. It helps to bring those to the surface, but it helps you to kind of gently examine them in a sense, right? And revisit and question, did I make the right decision at that time? No, why is that? Or yes, I did, and this is how it affected me, and now maybe it wasn't a good idea. But you have to be open to working through those things that subconsciously are still hidden away, and be able to let them go, whether it's guilt about decisions of your past or things that happened to you that you're holding anger against. Those things do still affect you, whether you've closeted them or thought you have dealt with them. And psychedelics can help you to process all of that. And I know that from experience because I'm working through that stuff every day. And sometimes new things do surface out of nowhere, and not necessarily because I've had a trip, but it's from a prior trip that I just didn't get all those messages figured out, right?
Oh,
so
awesome.
It is a daily process. I agree with them.
Awesome. So our next article is filtermag.org. DEA excludes expert witnesses from psychedelics ban hearing. And this is from Jack Gorsline.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article. The Drug Enforcement Administration is seeking to exclude what advocates say is key testimony from an upcoming hearing that the agency's long-running bid to ban 2 psychedelic substances. Advocates opposing the ban have hit back with scathing counter-emotions disputing the DEA's latest move and threatening further legal action. As Filter has previously reported, a coalition including Students for Sensible Drug Policy and Panacea Plant Services has fought a years-long battle with the DEA over the legal status of 2 substances widely used in psychedelic research. And they list those 2 there, 2,5-dimethoxy for idomethamphetamine and 2,5-D for whatever that says.
It's chloramphetamine.
Okay. The DEA wants to place DOI and DOC, which are currently unscheduled, into the Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act, the most restricted category for drugs deemed to have high abuse potential with no acceptable medical use. The agency revived these attempts in December of 2023. In January, the SSDP representative filed a request for a public hearing on the matter.
On September 26th, just hours before a deadline to do so, the final motion, yada, yada, yada. That's what the title is. So in August, following numerous bureaucratic delays and pre-hearing statements, the DAA's administrative court responded by scheduling a historically lengthy 9-day hearing period to run from November 12th to the 22nd, with an additional day on November 25th to accommodate the Thanksgiving holiday. That didn't signal a temporary ceasefire, however. On September 26th, just hours before a deadline to do so, the DA filed a motion to exclude various witnesses, witness testimony, and exhibits proposed by Panacea Plant Sciences, the Science Policies Council, Students for Sensibility Drug Policy, and Dr. Raul A. Ramos. The filing states that it is one of the grounds that much of the proposed testimony and exhibits are incompetent, irrelevant, immaterial, and unduly repetitive. SSDP representatives had previously submitted a 14-person list of proposed witnesses for the hearing. The size of the list was a significant factor in the administrative court scheduling a lengthy public hearing. The list of proposed witnesses include a world-class international group of behavioral and molecular pharmacologists, chemists, neuroscientists, and a former government advisor on psychoactive drugs, according to SSDP Science Policy Committee Chair Elijah Holmes. The DAA is seeking to exclude some, though not all, of these witnesses. Yeah.
Wow, eh? Intriguingly, the DEA's filing includes a particularly lengthy section dedicated to discrediting the proposed testimony of David Hedrith, the founder and president of Panacea Plant Services, a psychedelic research and development company. Despite Hedrith's work, the agency claims there's no indication that he possesses any expertise to aid the tribunal in resolving the issue. My question is then why do they care? The DEA is attempting to restrict the testimony of the only group representing Native American viewpoints. The response to the DEA's attempt to disqualify his testimony, Hedrith filed a counter motion on October 3rd, disputing the agency's argument and detailing plans for future legal action if its request is approved. The counter motion described the DEA's bid to remove Hedrith from the witness list as a disservice to the hearings and to the American people. And then, it then set out further steps which, if Hedrith is excluded, could potentially mirror the DEA's plan for DOI and DOC in further legal struggles. If the judge in the hearing approves this motion by DEA, it states PPS plans to seek an interlocutory appeal of the non-final judgment ruling on the motion, which would then have to be sent to the DEA's administrator for review. PPS would then plan to ask for a stay in the hearings during the time which the judge's ruling and the DEA's administrator's receipt and the counter motion continued. Additionally, PPS plans to challenge this point in federal court if that interlocutory appeal is denied. Oh, fuck. I got a pop-up. Hang on. Motherfucker. Always. It always happens. This stupid phone. Let me just find that where I left off here.
I think we're on President Joe Biden.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the article because somehow I've lost it.
I'll
Here we go. There it is. President Joe Biden's DEA is attempting to restrict the testimony of the only group representing Native American viewpoints, said Hildreth in a statement provided to Filter, adding that PPS is also the only business involved in the DEA's hearings. Hildreth's family is Cherokee, Wailiki, and Hupeli, and his company focuses on developing therapies through collaboration with Indigenous peoples and organizations, including the Comanche organization SIA, Benefit Honoring, and the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund. PPS also designates a portion of its equity for Indigenous peoples and related organizations. So yeah, that's interesting, eh?
Right, man. That's DP representative also responded to the DA's latest move in an October 3 press release. Director of Strategy and Development Gina Giorgio questioned the fairness of credibility of a DEA-led trial that excludes the world's foremost experts from participating in the discussion. We have assembled a world-class international group of behavioral and molecular pharmacologists, chemists, neuroscientists, a former government advisor on psychoactive drugs, and SSDP's Elijah Allman, who himself pursuing a PhD in molecular systems pharmacology. If the DAA believes that both DOI and DOC should be placed in Schedule 1, they should have no issue allowing our witnesses to testify in full. Otherwise, he continued, it appears to me that they are worried their data set is lacking the scientific rigor to support their claims. The coalition also said the DA's attempt to discredit witnesses in a separate counter motion filed on October 3 by SSGP attorney Brett Phelps and attorney Robert Rush on behalf of UC Berkeley's Dr. Rod Remote. The government moved to severely restrict virtually all the petitioners' witnesses based on a scientific analysis of summaries of testimony offered in the petitioner's pre-hearing statement, the joint counter motion stated, and mischaracterizes their proposed testimony. The DEA paradoxically argues it continued the evidence of potential harms to research from scheduling DOI and DOC is relevant in determining their status. In that counter motion, Phelps addressed the seemingly self-contradictory fact that DEA administrator and Milligram considered such evidence in her own evaluation of DOI and DOC status. And that's a good point. If harm to research is irrelevant, Phelps asked, why did the administrator consider harm to research in her analysis, and past administrators acknowledged considering harm to research? He added that the weight that the administrator may assign to a particular factor is not the same question as to its relevancy. Wow.
Yeah. The DEA, which first sought to ban the two psychedelics in 2022, has repeatedly argued that they are dangerous, claiming in its December 2023 Schedule 1 filing proposal that the history and current pattern of abuse of DOI and DOC are described in law enforcement reports and anecdotal reports by drug abusers. But just a few sentences later, the agency concedes that it is impossible to know if the street drugs sold to individuals as DOI and DOC are actually the substances they are marketed as in the absence of chemical analysis or evaluation of biological fluids contained following ingestion. Researchers have described DOI in particular as a critical research tool capable of yielding insight into mental health and pain. Among the areas SDP has highlighted that the substance has been cited in over 900 research articles in the past 2 decades. By trying to silence the world's leading experts in neuroscience and pharmacology, said Rush in the press release, the DEA is attempting to prevent the tribunal and the public from understanding the true potential of these substances. At a time when we face an unprecedented mental health crisis, it's unconscionable for the DEA to claim that harm from psychedelic research is irrelevant, he added. I look forward to the DEA being called to explain themselves. Absolutely.
Right. Oh man, that's hang in there. We got another DEA thing, and this is we're in the realm. I mean, they just had the whole thing with MDMA. Now they're having this. I mean, we're in a world where constituents are calling for these therapeutical research methods, and so we're going to see a bunch of this.
Absolutely. You're going to see a lot of this, of course, because they don't want us to have these substances for healing practices. Can some of them be abused? Absolutely, if they're in the wrong hands for the wrong reasons. And I'm sure there's probably cases of that. I'm not exactly sure about these 2 drugs and what they are at street level, because we just have the chemical names. But if they're seeing them in street drug reports, okay, well then it's probably that someone's using them recreationally and got addicted because, again, they don't know how to integrate and work through that stuff. They're just trying to cover their problems. And is it actually those 2 chemicals that are floating around out there? Everything's containing all sorts of who knows what nowadays. So there's so much to that article, but I really hope that they, take these experts into consideration because they're obviously doing the work in their research.
I do too. They need to be heard. Otherwise, that's why they want them thrown up, because they have a case if these people are heard.
Absolutely. Or else they wouldn't care if they testified. They'd just be like, yeah, whatever, right? And laughing it off.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we will return with more articles that Bufo has chosen, making mainstream media news.
Back in 44 minutes and 20 seconds here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network. Woo! Gonna go puff, gonna go puff, gonna go puff, gonna go puff, puff, puff.
Discover the treasure trove of flavors at Miss Jolly's Munchie Factory. Satisfy your cravings with our award-winning treats. Follow us on Instagram at Captain Rogers 705. Let Miss Jolly's Munchie Factory lift your spirits. Experience the comforting embrace of our freshly prepared soups and infused cornbread.
Hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set. One dab,
Smoke Signal is a medical dispensary where you can get all your products and needs.
Vaping a whole bunch. Might just start laying off the blunts. God. Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram. Go and hold it in, feel it in your ribs.
So come and check us out in Tyndonega. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndonega. It's on the res. And we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Tune in daily to NOK Network's diverse podcasting lineup. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Tara Simpson and Ron McNabb. Waking Up with the Waniac, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Wayne Cruz from sunny California. Grow 420, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern with Ron McNabb. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Hobbies Puppets and Tara Simpson. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Sir Stevo and Kim Cooper. Thursdays we have Open Your Eye with Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson, 8 p.m. Eastern. Followed by Thursday Night Vibes at 9:15 p.m. Eastern with Master and Mama Rochi. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh airs 7 nights a week with our rotating joint hosts nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in to all the podcasting on NOK Network.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights. Spotlights on entertainment. And live on location coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Facebook. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at NOKNetwork.com.
Hey, dudes and dudettes. Enjoy the show, man.
Hey, we're back from our medication session live here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
We have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. All right, this next article is taken off of ganjapreneur.com. And DA wants more psychedelics for research purposes, and this was written by Graham Abbott.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article. The DEA is proposing revised 2024 and new 2025 production quotas for research-grade psychedelics, including psilocybin, and ibogaine. The agency says the new production rates are needed to drive research. The Drug Enforcement Administration last week proposed increasing its 2024 production quotas for research-grade psychedelic compounds, including psilocybin, and ibogaine, according to a Lucid News report. The revised production agenda, posted in a notice to the Federal Reserve, calls for increased production from 20,000 to 30,000 grams of psilocybin and from 24,000 to 36,000 grams of psilocybin a 50% overall increase. The numbers also represent DEA's new production quotas for those substances for 2025. The agency also calls for increasing ibogaine production in 2025 from 150 grams to 210 grams, but did not call for increasing the production of MDMA or DMT, the report said. The agency said the increased production rates are necessary to drive and support new research into the effects of potential applications of psychedelic substances, many of which are Schedule I substances under federal law. And then there's a quote here that says, the proposed increases are to support research and clinical trials by DEA registered Schedule I researchers. These proposed increases demonstrate DEA's support for research with Schedule I controlled substances. The proposed increases reflect research and development needed as part of the process for seeking the FDA approval of new drugs. And that's an excerpt from the DEA notice.
Yeah, so previously DEA announced massive boosts to its psychedelic production rates in 2022 in preparation for a significant research push. The agency has also proposed decreasing next year's production rate of fentanyl, hydrocodone for sale, hydromorphone, and oxycodone for sale. Additionally, the FDA recently awarded breakthrough therapy designations to both psilocybin and MDMA, although the agency later highlighted concerns about the initial investigations into MDMA as a potential treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. So, explain to me. I feel a little dumb and stoned. So, you can't do it, but we can do it for research to tell you if you can do it for research.
Right. My question is, so why are they still involved in fentanyl, hydrocodone, and all of these other drugs? Like, I don't understand how that plays in. I thought the research was already done on these drugs.
Unless they keep it on hand to do studies as there's more cases of abuse, but
I don't get that. But I am glad that they're pushing more research, because we know that we need this research and we need them to do it sustainably and with, lab grade research materials. So that's very cool that they're on board and not trying to slow that down, because we all know that, government processes take time, lots of time.
Well, my argument is if you are telling the private companies that they can't do this research, how right is it it's okay for you to do it?
Right. And that's not fair at all. I get that they want control over everything, but again, that skews the results in some cases, right?
Yeah,
we need to have independent research done, not just government sanctioned research that says, oh, this was our outcome, sorry about your luck.
Or working together,
Right. Have some multi-level options, because again, not everyone heals in this way or this way. Sometimes they need to be with this facilitator, or there's things that need to be done to make sure that we're getting a comprehensive view of this research.
I agree. So speaking of research, this is why it's cool that we still are going forward, because marijuanamoment.net put a article that is written by Ben Adlin, and it basically is psilocybin helps first responders reduce stress and curb occupational burnout, study shows.
Yeah. So a new study of emergency first responders suggests that a single self-administered dose of psilocybin, the chief psychoactive compound in psychedelic mushrooms, can help to address psychological and stress-related symptoms stemming from a challenging work environment. known to contribute to occupational burnout. After one therapeutic psilocybin session, several members of OB showed an encouraging level of improvement, says the report published this month in the Journal of Psychedelic Studies, noting that the result may constitute an important step forward or important step towards finding alternative and innovative solutions to address high rates of psychological distress experienced by emergency medical service workers. The study from researchers out of the University of Northampton, the nonprofit LF Trust, and the University of Greenwich looked at 5 participants who each took a single dose of psilocybin mushrooms and completed interviews both before and after use. The results showed that 2 weeks after the session, a visible improvement was noticed in several measures of pre-existent OB that remained stable after 2 months. After 2 months, the study says. Additionally, most participants reported a strong subjective impact that they perceived as fundamental for positive outcome. Wow.
Authors wrote that all volunteers showed less intense levels of reactivity to specific events and occupational stressors. Less intense PTSD symptomology, lower levels of job burnout and secondary traumatic stress, and higher levels of compassion satisfaction, fulfilling enough criteria to demonstrate some level of efficacy in the self-administration treatment condition. They noted that not only could psilocybin aid emergency medical workers themselves, but also that it may benefit the organization and the quality of patient care. With just one session in a naturalistic setting, several predictors of OB showed some level of improvement, and as with military populations, these results can constitute an initial first step forward towards finding alternative solutions to address high rates of mental disorders and illness, and all the cascade of cumulative negative effects, whether at the individual or at an organizational level, experienced by the first responder workforce. Even when the stressful nature and conditions of the work remains the same, and no major changes are implemented in organizational structures. Whew, that was a mouthful. I'm stoned.
Yeah, the study comes amid increased research and early understanding of psilocybin's possible health benefits, especially around mental health distress. Earlier this year, the federal government itself published a webpage acknowledging the potential benefits of psychedelic substances might provide, including for treatment of alcohol use disorder, anxiety, and depression. The page also highlights psilocybin research being funded by the federal government into the drug's effect on pain, migraines, psychiatric disorders, and various other conditions. Posted on the website of the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, which is a part of the National Institutes of Health, the page includes basic information about what psilocybin is, where it comes from, the legal status of the drug, and preliminary findings around safety and efficacy. The NCCIH page highlights 3 possible areas of application: alcohol use disorder, anxiety, and existential distress and depression. Another promising application for psychedelics could be pain management. NCCIH notes on its psilocybin page that the agency is currently funding research to study the safety and efficacy of psilocybin-assisted therapy for chronic pain, while other federally funded research is looking into the effects of psilocybin on people with chronic low back pain and depression in regards to their emotions and perception of pain. Very cool. Separate research published this year on psilocybin that found it's unlikely that a single experience of the drug changes people's religious or metaphysical beliefs, though it may affect their perception of whether animals, plants, or other objects experience consciousness. Findings of another recent study suggest that the use of full spectrum psychedelic mushroom extract has a more powerful effect than chemically synthesized psilocybin alone, which could have implications for psychedelic assisted therapy. The findings imply that the experience of entheogenic mushrooms may involve a so-called entourage effect, similar to what's observed with cannabis and its many compounds. Interesting.
Separate study published by the American Medical Association found that single-dose psilocybin was not associated with the risk of paranoia, while other adverse effects such as headaches are generally tolerable and resolve within 48 hours. That study, published in JAMA Psychiatry, involved a meta-analysis of double-blind clinical trials where psilocybin was used to treat anxiety and depression from 1966 to last year. AMA published another recent study that similarly contradicted the commonly held beliefs that the potential risks of psychedelic use found in the substances may be associated with lower rates of psychotic symptoms among adolescents. Also, results of a clinical trial published by AMA in December suggested efficacy and safety of psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy for treatment of bipolar II disorder, a mental health condition often associated with debilitating and difficult to treat depressive episodes. The association also published research last August that found people with major depression experienced clinically significant sustained reduction in their symptoms after just one dose of psilocybin. Wow.
Wow, some pretty interesting research because especially where they talk about how it contradicts the long-held belief that psychedelics in youth creates paranoid issues, and that's obviously not holding true, right? That there are research studies done on these adolescents who are taking psychedelics and they're not getting schizophrenia or running around and being all paranoid or anything like was previously thought, right? That it was bad for their brains. Maybe it's actually good for their brains.
Well, and that's what we're finding out this week. It's like this week was a lot of articles in the fighting of research and all those other stuff and integration. It was a great week of news this week.
Absolutely. I can't wait to carry on next week with the continuation of that first article and reading a couple more chapters.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media site.
That's right. We hope you've enjoyed your update today on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe. And don't forget to tune in next week for that continuation.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, Simpson, and to Bufo Alverius for choosing the stories, and to you, our listener, for joining us each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out.
Night.
Night.
Looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see